going to call this meeting to order, please. Welcome, everyone, to the January 20th meeting of the Bloomfield Township Planning Commission. Just so people who are not familiar with this group know what we're doing here, the Planning Commission is a 7-member body. It's appointed by the Township Board of Trustees as per the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. The Planning Commission is a recommending body only. Whatever we decide here has to then go to the Board of Trustees, and they make the final decision for approval of matters for land use and for site plan reviews. We have a few things on tonight's agenda. A public hearing for 2285 Franklin Road, an Ace pickleball court tenant. A site plan for 2165 Telegraph is a new credit union building. And we're going to introduce 2 proposed amendments to the B2 zoning district. And so on any of these items, a vote of at least 4 members of this commission is necessary to approve anything. So I hope that this gives you a little more information about what we are and what we plan to do. The first order of business is to take attendance. We make sure we have a quorum. When we do have six members here, so we have a quorum. And we have the minutes from the last meeting. We've all had a chance to look at them. Any corrections or comments on the minutes? Then I'd like a motion then, please, to approve the minutes. Move and support. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The first item is we open this up now at this point for public comment. That's anything you want to talk about relating to planning or to this commission. You'll have opportunity under each item to also make comments, but this is an opportunity for you to say anything about anything that you would like. So if you do have something, step up to the microphone there, give your name and address, and then have at it. So I'll open that up right now. And I don't see anybody jumping to do that, so we'll just close that up and move on to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is a site plan review, special land use, 2285 Franklin Road, Ace Pickleball Club. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Andrea. I'm from the Planning Division here at Bloomfield Township. The first item that I'll be presenting this evening is for a proposed fully enclosed pickleball facility, I guess we'll refer to it as. The proposed location is highlighted here on your screen. It's located in our Research Park District. It is to the east of Franklin Road, just north of Hewlett Drive. The property actually is highlighted. I don't have it highlighted. You can't really see the outline of it. I just want to show for you which property we're referring to. We're specifically talking about this building located right here. So you can see that the property is surrounded with Research Park. So there is no immediate abutting up to any residential lots. Here is a highlighted aerial of the existing building. I just want to note that with this application, there are no proposed changes to the exterior of the building. The property does share, the property at 2285 Franklin Road does have a shared parking field that they do share with 550 Hewlett Drive, which is this office building located here to the rear of the site. The applicant does have and has provided a copy of a reciprocal shared parking agreement, which has been recorded for some time now. It's not new with this proposal, but just indicating that there is a shared parking and circulation that does exist between those two sites. So the proposal for itself is, like I said, pretty straightforward. The applicant is not proposing any exterior changes. The presentation or the request is brought to you by Solu Pickleball LLC. They are seeking to construct a 32,250 square foot indoor pickleball facility, which includes a total of 11 courts with an accompanying 1,800 square foot mezzanine. The proposed pickleball facility will occupy the eastern portion of the building. So if we're looking at the site, this is Franklin Road here. The eastern portion of the building would be in the rear portion back here. They are looking again to occupy approximately 3,200 square feet, with the remainder of the building to the west of the site remaining as is as an office use. Again, you can see the rear lot line as it traverses across the parking lot. This would be an existing nonconformity in terms of parking lot setback. Since there are no proposed changes, that existing nonconforming condition can remain and will remain with the proposal as laid out. As required on site, the applicant has provided a loading as well as a trash area, which is located to the rear of the building. These are existing and no proposed changes, but it does satisfy the requirements within the ordinance to have appropriate loading as well as a trash receptacle. The proposed entry into the pickleball facility is located here along the southern elevation of the building in an existing access door. No changes being proposed to that as well. Here's a floor plan of the proposed use. A demising wall will be provided that will separate the pickleball facility from the remainder of the building. As again, this area down here represents the 1,800 square foot mezzanine area. The hours of operation that are being proposed for this are Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturdays from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Mostly they'll close at 9 p.m., but the applicant has indicated that in some occasions they have a glow pickleball that they may have until 10 in the evening. So I just put them down for operations from 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock on Saturdays. And then on Sundays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We do not have any regulated hours of use within the Research Park District like we do in our business classifications. So just highlighting that those are the proposed hours for this pickleball facility. Again, this is a layout of the interior floor plan. Also, the applicant has provided some examples of other locations showing what the interior of the site will look like upon completion of the full tenant build-out. I do want to highlight that the applicant is not seeking a liquor license with this proposed application. The mezzanine area is intended for a meeting area with some tables, as well as a concession area. No proposed liquor sales at this location. The club itself is a membership, is intended for open membership, so anybody can come and play pickleball at any time and sign up for a time to go and play. There's no requirement. It is, like I said, it's an open use. In terms of the use within the research park, this is considered a recreational use, which does fall under the special land use classification within the research park, and that is why the public hearing is required as it relates to that requested special land use. Special land uses are looked at as sometimes uses that may have a little bit more of an impact to adjacent properties. In this instance, the special land use really does not have any outward impact. The site plan shows that they do have a total of 346 parking spaces on site. The applicant did provide as required for this application, they did provide a parking analysis to determine that their demand with their peak hours, along with the existing office operation that occurs in the western portion of the building. The result of that shared parking study did agree, our consultant, Fishbeck, agreed with the analysis that was provided on behalf of the applicant by Colliers, and noted that in their October 23rd, 2024 and their November 15th, 2024 reports, which are a part of your packet, they do recommend that the Planning Commission accept the parking analysis as recommended by the traffic engineer. The determination of that parking study was that the 346 parking spaces would be enough to meet the parking demand on both weekend and weekday hours. And there also was a landscape plan. The applicant did provide a landscape plan. They are not proposing any changes, but they have provided us what's existing on site. So the application did indicate that they do have satisfactory existing conditions as it relates to their landscaping on the sites. So that was provided as well. The site itself will be provided by 2 curb cuts. One will be provided from Hewlett Drive to the south of the site, as well as access directly from Franklin Road to the far west of the site. Those are existing conditions. Again, no proposed changes to those. So the application itself is pretty straightforward. In terms of all the requirements for the special land use, the application does not indicate any changes to noise, odor, lights, aesthetics, again, because everything's interior to the site, no exterior changes, so no impacts to adjacent properties. The applicant will be required, if they chose to add signage into their entrance, their proposed entrance. This is the exterior of the building along where their proposed entrance will be. And they would have to come back and apply for any signage to the design review board. This has been reviewed by our fire department, stating that they have no issues, noting that any fire-related comments may be addressed at the time of building permits. The police department has no objections to the proposed project. And Environmental and Engineering Services Department notes that the site plan that any changes to public water or sewer, that they have no plans for any changes to public water and sewer, sorry. And they also note that in their October 22nd, 2024 memo, that the residential equivalent units will be calculated at the time of building plan review. So this did have an opportunity, this proposal did go before the design review board last week, January 15th, and did receive a unanimous positive support to forward this on to the Planning Commission. And there's no variances associated with this proposal. So with this, we ask you to consider any public comment. We do have the applicant here in the audience if you would like to hear from them. And we also do have noted within your packet that the consideration by the Planning Commission should consider the following: that compliance with the requirements of the township departments, compliance with the requirements by the township traffic engineer, and seeking approval for signage for the design review board. So with that, again, a very straightforward application, but certainly can answer any questions as well as hear from the applicant.
Thank you. All right, bring it back here first. Any questions for Andrea?
Not right now.
Okay, then, if the applicant would like to make a presentation, please come forward.
Thank you, Andrea. Matthew Sasson, 39,000 Country Club Drive, Farmington Hills, Michigan. So I think Andrea summed it up pretty much. This will be our second location in Michigan. Our first location will be in Grand Rapids, and we're opening probably in April. And we're really excited to be in Bloomfield Township. This will be a crown jewel in the entire, not just our portfolio, but in the entire, Ace Pickleball Club portfolio. So we're really excited about this. So here to answer any questions that you might have.
Oh, all right. Again, back here, before I open the public, the hearing, anybody have any questions?
I have one question.
Go right ahead.
Just out of curiosity, what's the minimum height that you need for this operation?
So the minimum, 18 is kind of like our minimum. We probably could make it work less, but the higher the better, I guess would be
What's the
answer.
height that you have
I
here?
think it's around 24 here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody? Yeah,
I
sure.
couldn't find it in here. You're sharing half the building.
Yes.
What's on the other half?
All off, right now, office users.
That better be a good demising wall.
It'll be standard, so probably 6 inches, two layers of drywall on each side, goes from floor to deck. So there won't be any sound issues.
You have something? Oh, okay, then let me open up the public hearing. Anybody would like to make a comment, question? Well, in your comments, you can come up to the podium and say what you have to say. Need your name and your address, and that's it. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, back to us.
Now I'm ready. I really like the business model. It's great, and it's nice to have a pickleball business, or club in this case, where we don't have to be concerned about sound, because
Yeah.
since it's an interior building as opposed to being outside, that certainly makes it a lot easier for us. We don't have to be concerned about surrounding neighbors.
Yes.
But it's really great, certainly more of what we're trying to accomplish in the township between tea time and the Olympic Training Center and some of the new restaurants. It's certainly making the township more exciting and bringing it more up to date. So I think it's a great concept and welcome you to the township. Unless there's anything else, I'd like to make a motion that we move this on to the Township Board for consideration based on the approval, based on the department heads' reports, the traffic study, and any signage to the Design Review Board.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Here's a second.
Okay. Any comment on the motion? All right, then we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. Appreciate it.
Nice
Thank-
project.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on. The next item, we have a site plan, 2165 Telegraph Road for the DFCU Credit Union.
Okay, and the second proposal we have before you this evening is a site plan review for 2165 Telegraph Road. This is located this is proposed in the outlot of the Bloomfield Town Square Shopping Center, which is also where the Costco, Home Goods, Dick's Sporting Goods. So this is north of Square Lake on the east side of Telegraph. The parcel itself, I have it highlighted on your screen. It is currently vacant. And here is an overall aerial of the site. Again, you can see this would be located in that vacant site between the shopping center immediately to the north off Telegraph, as well as to the existing, I believe that's the IHOP, immediately to the south. Okay, so the proposal, DFC Credit Union is seeking approval for a new approximately 3,400 square feet building. The proposal also includes a canopy in there. So this is Telegraph Road. This is the existing two-way access drive within the Bloomfield Town Square Shopping Center. And then here to along this elevation indicates the interior ring road of the shopping center. The applicant is seeking to have a 3 teller windows located to the rear of the building, so with no visibility to Telegraph Road. They have shown on their site plan stacking ability to up to 13 cars, which is not anything that I don't think it's very common that 13 cars are stacked within a credit union. So they provide ample stacking for the site, as well as having that opt-out lane located to the outside of that Q drive lane is required with all of our site plans, is that anytime we have a drive-through operation, that there is an opt-out lane for anybody be able to get around that Q. The application is B2 is the zoning district. This is a permitted use within the B2 zoning district. Access to the site will be provided via 2 drive. The first is to the northeast of the subject parcel, which is providing ingress and egress from the internal ring road, as well as there's also the second form in the existing 2-way drive aisle that is provided along the western side of the shopping center. I do want to notate that as part of their application, they have indicated that exiting from this exit requires a left-hand turn only. So the intention is that when a patron is exiting from the credit union onto this existing 2-way drive leading to Telegraph, that the exit drive is to have a left turn only out of the site. They are also providing concrete walkways around the perimeter of the building to allow for pedestrian access from the interior of the site. A dumpster has been located here to the closest to the interior ring road. That dumpster enclosure does meet the requirements of our ordinance. They have provided masonry screen wall with gates, which does meet the requirements within our ordinance. The parking layout provides for a total of 30 spaces with 2 barrier-free spaces. The parking requirement for the credit union would be 15 spaces. So the applicant, with providing the 30 spaces, well exceeds the required parking in accordance with our ordinance. Parking spaces are dimensioned accordingly, which is 9 feet wide by 20 feet long, meeting the requirements of the zoning ordinance. A traffic impact study was completed by Traffic Analysis and Design Incorporated. It was reviewed by the township's traffic engineer, Fishbeck, for conformance with township requirements. In the memo from Fishbeck dated November 12, 2024, it was noted that all the items have been addressed and they do have support for the traffic analysis as presented. Additionally, on site, we do require, for any business, they are required to provide for a loading area. A loading area, an 850 square foot loading area, has been proposed to the rear of the site, which is required by ordinance. I believe it's located, I have to zoom in there, the location of the believe, I don't see it on this one, but the loading area, I believe, is located in this location. I'll have to have the applicant clarify that. So moving on. As you can see highlighted on your screen here, our fire marshal had an opportunity to review the proposal to ensure that there is appropriate circulation for the site. The applicant is providing 26-foot wide drive aisle, which is the requirement of our fire marshal. So they have met and satisfied the concerns from the fire department related to site access. Photometric study has been provided where the applicant is indicating that they are adding, there will be parking lot lighting to be no higher than 20 feet from grade at the time of installation, downward shielded. The applicant has provided the photometric study you see on your plan, which does comply with the provisions of our ordinance, showing a 0 measurement to the lot line. And then on the right-hand side, I just wanted to share with you some of the 3D modeling that was provided, indicating what the lighting output would look like in a nighttime view from that from the building. Again, this is immediately abutting a shopping center as well as Telegraph Road. A landscape plan has been provided. The landscape plan was reviewed by Michael J. Duell in conformance with our ordinance. In their report dated October 11th, 2024, they conclude that the proposed landscape improvements meet the requirements outlined in the ordinance. They did note that in their report that there were 4 canopy trees that are located within that Telegraph Road green belt. They did ask, Michael J. Duell did ask that they should be relocated to be fully located within the 25-foot green belt. So there has been an updated landscape plan that's been provided that has shown these 4 trees now fully within that 25-foot setback that will be addressed and modified before it going to the township board. Relatively moderate modification. Another modification is that they have installed, they are since updating their plan to install the junipers that are to surround that dumpster enclosure to be the height of the dumpster at the time of installation. So in terms of the landscape plan, the applicant has met all the requirements regarding parking lot trees to be located within the parking field in landscape beds. They have also addressed the required 25-foot green belt. Similar, the idea of the canopy trees will continue that vista view. As you travel along Telegraph Road, you'll see that all the new developments, the Valvoline, those sites, they have some canopy trees along that Telegraph Road corridor. So they're keeping in the same spirit. And then also noting the requirements of that shielding of that dumpster enclosure. I do want to note that the applicant is locating a ground-mounted mechanical here along this southerly elevation. Southeasterly, northeasterly, we were kind of playing with the directions earlier because the lot is sort of skewed. So I'm taking it very literally when I say south elevation here, or this would be, let's see, north, east, south. west. They are proposing to screen that ground-mounted mechanical with materials to match the building, which is highlighted here. This is the area that I just pointed out to you on the site plan. So we're looking to the south. This would be the elevation as you're traveling north on Telegraph. This, behind that composite boarding, there will be a ground-mounted mechanical that will be screened from public view. That is permitted within our ordinance. Materials to screen ground-mounted mechanicals either have to be evergreen or they can be buildings. They can be building materials, which in this case, that is what the selection is. This is a view from what would be the two-way drive entrance that comes off Telegraph Road. And then ultimately, this would be the view from Telegraph Road. The applicant, again, as I stated, they did submit a landscape plan that does include a variety of some native plantings and vegetation. So highlighted on your screen here, I wanted to share this with you so you can really get a nice visual of understanding some of the species and some of the plantings that will be planted on the site to give it some extra appeal. At this time, the applicant is not seeking any approvals for signage. The signage would be required, as noted in your staff report, they would be required to come back to the Design Review Board for any future signage. Let's see. Any rooftop mechanicals, they have noted that they will be screened with a decorative metal screen to completely obscure the equipment, which is a requirement within our ordinance. Again, this did have an opportunity, this site plan did have a review from our various departments and consultants. Within their reports, the fire marshal does note that fire suppression and fire alarm will be required for this project. That will be done during permitting process. And then also noting that the fire department must have requirements of 100 feet from the FDC to a fire hydrant. So that as well will be determined at the time of permitting. Lastly, the police department, or not lastly, secondly, the police department has no objections with the proposal. Engineering and Environmental Services Department, as well as the township's engineer consultant, HRC, has provided preliminary site plan, have reviewed the preliminary site plan with respect to water main, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water service and hydrant locations. They do note HRC recommends approval of the preliminary site plans by the Planning Commission and Township Board, as well as the Engineering and Environmental Services Department determine that the necessary revisions that have been made have been addressed, and that they do recommend approval by the Planning Commission and Township Board. In terms of the building's design, I know that we do have the architect for the project here. He has actually has brought with him a materials board. The materials themselves are made up of brick with stone coping for the majority of the building. The building also has some black perforated metal panels, cast concrete panels, and a bronze tinted glazing for the windows and entryways. The canopy over the drive-through area is made of a black brick metal coping with a backlit perforated metal panel. I already reviewed the site lighting, indicating that the parking lot poles will be mounted at 20 foot overall height. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed regarding the site itself. So with that, I can answer any questions. I do want to state that this did have an opportunity to go before the Design Review Board, this site plan. Again, no variances associated with this proposal. So the applicant was able to design and develop it to meet all the qualifications and requirements of our various departments. Moving forward, I would ask the Planning Commission to consider under what conditions a site plan approval recommendation would be forwarded onto the Township Board for the proposed DFCU credit union. The consideration, which is included in your staff report, items number 1 through 5. These include compliance with the requirements of the township departments, Compliance with the requirement of the township's landscape architect, including that revised landscape plan to include the evergreen screening as well as the canopy trees being shifted as noted in the Michael J. Dool report. Again, the applicant has provided that landscape plan. It will be reviewed and updated prior to township board. Compliance with the requirements of the traffic consultant's review. Recording the stormwater sewer water easement and the construction and maintenance agreement. And then lastly, review and approval for signage by the design review board. So with that, I can answer any questions. And again, we have the applicant in the audience.
All right, bring it back here first. Anybody? Any have a comment, questions, anything?
Looks straightforward, looks good.
Yeah, it looks great. Okay, then let's, the applicant, be my guest, come up and make a presentation.
Hi, my name, excuse me, my name is John Chapel Perch. I live at 1700 Lone Pine Road, so I'm within Bloomfield Township, so very excited about this opportunity. I'm also the EVP and CFO with DFCU, responsible for facilities. So we have our facilities manager here, as well as Andrew from the architectural firm, our civil engineer and landscape architect as well, for any detailed questions or if you'd like to see some of the samples of what we propose. A little bit about DFCU. We're the third largest credit union based in Michigan, out of Dearborn, Michigan. Next month we'll celebrate our 75th anniversary, founded by Ford engineers in Dearborn, Michigan. So we're very excited about that as well. We're also known as the Cashback Credit Union, where we give a patronage dividend once a year. We just paid out $22 million to our membership, and that accumulation over the last 15 plus years back to our members is nearly $500 million. So we're continuing that program, and it's been very successful for us. Not only do I live in the township, our CEO lives in the township, we have senior management here, but more important than that, we did a study, and this was designated our #1 site to expand in the state of Michigan based on consultants that looked at our membership distribution and opportunity. So we're very excited about this last piece of property that was available, right on the asterisk where the consultant said to seek this out. So we've been working on this quite a while. Appreciate Andrea and all the engineers here helping us guide to get us to the point that we're here tonight. And we're very excited about this expansion because we have been, with our new CEO that we've had in place for the last 3 years, we've been on a market expansion. So we're growing in Florida as well as Michigan. This is one of 2 branches that we're looking to build in Michigan over the next couple of years. So with that, I just want to give a little flavor of who we were, and I can bring up the team here for any questions the commission may have.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody?
No questions.
Right ahead.
Just curious about the screened mechanical area. Is that for a heating and cooling equipment, or is it the electrical transformer that was mentioned?
I believe that's the transformer, right?
Yep. Andrew Laschik, I'm the design architect for the project. So on grade, that's the electrical transformer. That's
Oh, that's
with
the transformer.
A gate and vegetation, yeah.
So I just wanted to know if there's any other space in there, because typically maybe your operation doesn't need this or do this, but do you have a box that you use for security items that gets picked up and maybe shredded at a later date? Because the building's absolutely beautiful, by the way. And a lot of times facilities like yours would build a beautiful building and gorgeous landscaping and everything's perfect, and then somebody plops an ugly steel box for the shredded materials, and it's just like, where'd this come from? And like, it wasn't planned. So if you needed something like that, I would hope that you could figure out a way so that it's not an afterthought, because everything's so beautiful that why ruin it with an ugly steel box that the recycler will drop off and doesn't care what it looks like.
Yeah, we will not have that in there. We have a mechanical room inside as well, which will be where our IT equipment is, and we'll have basically a 90-gallon shredder plastic that can be rolled out. So that'll stay within the building, won't be outside.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, he's up here. Let's see the material.
Materials.
He came all this way from Dearborn. Let's see.
Sorry?
I'm happy to see the material, Mr. Chairman.
So we did have a brick mock-up made. It's a blend of 2 variated bricks. but this is basically the majority of the building is this brick with this mortar. So it's very neutral, and we think it plays well off of the native plants that we have going in. And then I think, Andrew, you might have mentioned black perforated metal on the exterior, but it is bronze.
It's more of a bronze. Yeah.
We have a bronze storefront that's going in, along with bronze perforated panels that match that, and these are the finishes for that. The perforations create interest. So throughout the day, as the sunlight changes, the building looks just a little bit different at each time of the day and each time of the year. And then we have a like champagne or sort of wheat-colored accent that goes on the canopy around the back, and then the windows are trimmed out in this sort of like golden color.
No, it's a really attractive building, and the colors work really well together.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was
Landscaping's
a
outstanding.
ground-up, brand-new design for DFCU, so this is a lot different than our branches that we developed in the 2010s, which is the traditional colonial, but is growing different needs with membership, and with, like most places, a lot of digital. We wanted to have an attractive office to bring our membership in. And so we have a little flex space in here as well, and more of an open lobby concept. So we literally started from the ground up with this project with Bloomfield Township. So this will be the first new design concept that we'll use in the future.
It fits in really well
Yeah,
in the
fits in
township.
nicely.
Thank you.
Did I hear something about some of the perforated panels are backlit?
Yes, yeah. So the drive-through canopy, the part that juts out from the building, that is backlit, and the facade-facing telegraph has 3 vertical backlit panels.
So will the panels be like several inches away from the building, or are they just flat LED behind them or something?
They're a couple, about 6 or 7 inches. So in the back, there's an LED diode, and then you just get the effect of like glowing light, but it doesn't cast any light from the building.
Okay, I just want to, as I say to almost every new development, new project that comes in, especially since you, the CEO, live in Bloomfield Township, I'm hoping when you announce the grand opening of your new project that you announce that it's in Bloomfield Township, not Bloomfield Hills. I have to get that on record every time. That's a pet peeve. Anybody else? Okay, let me open up.
Smartly done.
Open it up to anybody have any comments or questions, anything they'd like to say about this particular project? Okay, bring it back here again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, very nice.
Appreciate it.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we need a motion, or not.
Sure, I'm happy to make a motion. I make a motion that we forward on to the Township Board for approval based on DFCU's submission and compliance with the requirements of the Township departments, compliance with the requirements of the Township's landscape architect, including a revised landscape plan to include evergreen screening to the height of the dumpster enclosure at the time of installation, and to modify the location of the canopy trees as noted in the Michael J. Dool and Associates report of the same. Compliance with the requirements of the Township traffic consultant, recording the storm sewer water easement, construction and maintenance agreement, and review and approval for signage by the Design Review Board.
Okay, there's a motion?
Second.
Motion and support? Support. Any comment on the motion? Then call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, next. Introduction of proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance to allow accessory uses and structures from multiple family developments in the B2 Community Business District. And I guess you want to couple these two together, is that right?
They are tied together, but we'll take them sequentially.
Okay, so let's do that first. Okay, very good.
Oops, why is it not showing on my screen?
Oh, and just so you know, that anybody listening, this is really just an introduction of this, and then we'll be calling, the action will be to call for a public hearing on a specific date in the future. Excuse me?
That's February 3rd.
In February, right. Okay,
That's interesting. I'm sorry, my screen is changing in front of my face, but it's not changing up there, so.
So I'll start, and I'm sure once I start talking, it'll pop up. So before you this evening is a proposal for consideration of amending our zoning ordinance, specifically as it relates to the B2 Community Business District. The B2 district itself is intended to serve a larger commercial area. Generally, it's mapped along our shopping center areas or major intersections, and in many respects, they also serve as a buffer between commercial activity and our adjacent one-family or multifamily properties. When we speak to our zoning ordinance and look at the various districts within our zoning ordinance, you'll see that our ordinance identifies permitted principal uses, special land uses, and then also references accessory uses. And we are specifically focusing on this proposed amendment that seeks to allow accessory uses and structures customarily incidental to multiple family residential development on abutting property that's zoned B2 for specifically the convenience of the development's residents. And what we're talking about are those ancillary uses that oftentimes we will see, such as a clubhouse or activity center, pool, cabana, maybe a sports court, tennis court, so forth, open space, maybe a park, dog park, pedestrian pathways. Sometimes there'll be a joint resident garden. Those type of elements that contribute to the residents in that development. And all those accessory uses are subject to standards very specifically within our zoning ordinance. So this proposal is taking that into account and suggesting, because in many cases our zoning ordinance is formatted so as to allow lesser intense uses within the district that are considered compatible or consistent with the goals of that zoning district. So, for example, in the B1, B2, and B3, all of which will refer to a lesser zoning classification, which is less intense, less impactful, if you will, but still keeping in to the goals of that district. The OR1 references the O1 district, and in the ML district, it actually references the B3. So in that spirit, we're looking at, as you have a development proposal before you, which we'll be talking about following this, that looks to offer those types of amenities for a multiple family development in the B2, the adjoining B2 district. The zoning map has been highlighted. There's 5 circles on that zoning map that give an example of where the B2 immediately abuts property zoned RM, multiple family. And if we page down, the first one at the top is obviously the subject that we're going to be talking about at the next discussion. And this is the Noble. This is at South Boulevard and Squirrel. It is the the B2 property adjacent to the RM. Page down. Secondly, going to the Square Lake Road in Woodward. We're familiar with the Avalon Assisted Living Facility. Again, an RM attached to B2, where there could be that relationship. Next, Long Lake Road and Telegraph Road. We have the shopping center at the southeast corner, but it butts 2 properties that are zoned RM, both of which are condominiums, Devon Square and Willoway condos. Then we have at Maple Road and Telegraph Road, we have 2 examples. This one is actually featuring, there's a small portion of B2 property that abuts RM, which is the Foxcroft condos. And then the last location is here at Maple Road and Telegraph. It's the Sunrise Assisted Living, and it has it abuts the Bloomfield Plaza Shopping Center. So the locations that we're talking about are not too prolific within the township. There's very isolated locations where this B2 and RM occurs, and the fact that any changes would be subject to, or improvements would be subject to review by the township, or the township via going before the Planning Commission, making recommendations to the Township Board. And those uses are, as we called out as provisions for those multiple family residents, those that are typically considered ancillary. And so The specific language that is in your packet is presented in such a way that it is amending the B2 district and adding the phrase, or condition, if you will, accessory uses and accessory structures permitted in the RM districts when such uses are for the convenience of the multiple family residents in the RM district, subject to the applicable standards of the RM district. So this language has been reviewed by our township attorney, and we are ready to present this to the town planning commission, and are recommending that we set a public hearing date in February,
Okay, any questions?
specifically February 17th.
Yeah.
The question
Go ahead.
question I have is, when I first read it, I mean, you answered the question in your presentation, but when I first read it, I don't know if I'm missing it, or it doesn't say that if you're going to allow RM-type structures within the B2, I don't think it says that they're connected, but obviously, because right now, somebody could go across the street at the residential multiple product on Telegraph and say, I want to build a clubhouse on, and I don't think that's the intent.
No, it isn't. And the language is such that it's intended, because in the permitted principal uses on the property, it would be uses that would be specifically related to the RM district, and that there have to be a proposal that was presented that sought just that exact relationship of allowing those uses adjacent to it for the convenience of the multiple family residents. The reference to immediate or abutting has not been specifically included, but the intention and the references elsewhere within our ordinance is calling out that it is permitted as long as it meets those standards. So
think
we're trying to be consistent with that language.
And there's no intent to have any of the residential units on the B2, only the accessory structures, or
Correct.
could? Okay.
Just the accessory structures, correct.
Obviously, they could build more units on the RM if they had more room, but that's only proposed to be allowed for the accessory structures, whether it's a
Exactly.
clubhouse, a
Yes.
pool, a tennis
Yes.
court.
And then if you want to speak in those terms, it's not a residential use. Those are uses that are not, it's not a residence, but it's those activities that are not intended to be someone's dwelling, as a location for dwelling. It's strictly, the clubhouse, which is more a service to the residents.
Absolutely.
And the dog park is a service to the residents. It's not a residence specifically on that property. And that's the key distinction.
So,
The key-
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
so
finish
the
up. It's
ordinance
okay.
would allow that type of use by right if it was adopted. But today, if somebody wanted to do something like that, would it be allowed under a special land use? Is it just eliminating, or it wouldn't be allowed at all?
Correct, wouldn't be allowed
Wouldn't
at
be
all.
allowed at all.
So this
Okay.
would be allowing this specific instance or example to be able to go forward as part of a site plan application.
Thank you.
But it would be by right, once you amend it.
By right, however, it would have to be part of a site plan application because the RM district requires any changes or modifications to go through the site plan review process.
Yeah. Well, the key thing you phrased, the attorneys parsed the words, because I saw the same thing. In the first instance, allow accessory uses and structures permitted in the RM district in the B2 community. It should say adjacent to, right? Because it's got to be, it's got to share a property line. It's got to be accessible from the property line. That's the one I got hung up with. And you've found the little nuggets in the community that have it. There's only a few.
But, and even, reflecting
Three
on
of them
those
over.
other locations, there's not a practical need
Right.
at this, and it's not one of which we see any immediate interest or need, but I certainly wanted to make sure that you were aware of that there are just a few locations where, there could be an opportunity in the far future, that there'd be something that would be interested to those residents but couldn't be accommodated on their property and actually was on the adjoining business
But you're not opening a can of worms. It's just-
I don't believe in any stretch that we'd be doing that.
Okay. Anybody else? I just want to be clear that what's happening is, right now, the ordinance says that a lower intense use can only be of that particular classification, a business in a business use, or lower intense in another use, but it has to be the same, like office, for instance, but it's got to be in that. Right now, what you're allowing is a crossover, something much lower intense, but not necessarily from that use. So there's a little more flexibility in allowing that, that's all.
And-
But
and-
in no case does it make it more intense, it's always less intense.
Exactly, that is the key, is less intense. Even in the ML district, which is our light manufacturing, it references the B3. So it's not necessarily, even within our, our rigid categories of classifications, it's really focused on that lesser intense, but it makes sense to the uses that we do allow in that zone district for that benefit of those adjoining properties.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess the only question is that would it be appropriate if this planning commission decides to set the public hearing to state that it's adjacent or abutting, or is it clear enough for you, or I'd like to see it in there if
If
it
you'd
was-
recommend that, we can review that with our attorney, and that could be part of the presentation at the February 17th public hearing. And that would be appropriate, absolutely.
To be clear, that's your intention. It's adjacent
Absolutely.
property.
It was always the intention.
All right, anybody, anybody would like to come up and make a comment about this particular thing? Okay. All right, so really, the only thing to be decided is, should we have a hearing on February 17th? That's-
Scheduled public hearing for February 17th regarding proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow accessory uses and structures for multiple family development in B2 Community Business District. And if you can discuss with Dirk about the proposed language change.
provided that
Yes,
they're-
abutting or adjoining, yes.
Okay, it's
Thank
been
you.
moved to have the hearing. Support? Okay, moved and support. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Great.
next.
Okay.
Introduction of rezoning site plan for the Noble Residential Development at 3200 South Boulevard for a new residential building and clubhouse with amenities at the vacant property of the southwest corner of South Boulevard and Squirrel Road.
So now this all will make sense now. So I just shared with you just a little bit of background. So back in 2018, the formerly called Manchester, now is the Noble, went through the pretty extensive review process where there's a master plan amendment, a rezoning, a lot split, and several site plan reviews, and development agreement or consent agreements, and it resulted in, I think, a terrific project and proposal that we have nearly completed as far as the residential component. And then we had the commercial that was at the corner. The current property owner of the Manchester Squirrel, which is the Noble, is looking to expand their development and acquire the commercial property so as to provide one additional residential building, which will provide 5 units, residential units, and then the balance of it to be the amenities customarily found with a multifamily development. This is the result of the former action in 2018, and the request is such that it requires a rezoning because in the B2 district, a residential is not permitted. So they are seeking to rezone a portion of that B2 to accommodate one more building, which will be the additional 5 units. And then the balance of that B2 is those support and those accessory uses and structures that will be clearly a huge benefit to the residents of the Noble. The rezoning request, for just clarification, and I think this is a good screen to show, the corner parcel is 2.32 acres of B2 property. You can see that it's vacant. They are looking to rezone a portion 1.23 acres to the B2 classification. That would then result in, I think I just did my math incorrectly. So the, 1.23 acres to result in a net of 1.09 acres to remain the B2. The balance is the zoning classification to be rezoned from, the resultant RM property, and that adds to the acreage to be a total of 11.02 acres of RM and 1.09 acres of B2 for a total of 12.12 acres of parcel, all under the ownership of the Noble. The master plan, and here's a depiction of that rezoning. So that's the portion of the property that would be rezoned to RM. The master plan back in 2018, also reaffirmed in 2022, recommend that this corner be used for office, multifamily, and commercial. Office is actually farther to the west, as you may be familiar as the T1 Credit Union. Then we have the balance of the property being RM, and then the corner to remain a portion of that B2 classification, being consistent with the master plan amendment. So with the B2 district, I think we're familiar of the locations of the B2 elsewhere in the township, and those that I highlighted at the previous amendment that we were speaking of. They are a location that is often a transition to multiple family, so it still maintains that consistency of having that B2 at the corner and the RM to follow, but yet we have a very viable, comprehensive development found with this request. The property in its entirety, so the 12 acres as a combined parcel, does abut one family residential to the west, that's Shaker Heights subdivision. They also abut one family to the south, Bloomfield North Estates subdivision. Also one family residential to the east, and that is Chapel Hill Estates #1 subdivision. And then lastly, I think we're familiar to the north and the other side of South Boulevard is the city of Auburn Hills.
Oops.
Anytime there is a zoning classification that is at our borders, the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act does require that we forward on the request before the Oakland County Coordinating Zoning Committee, so that they can review the request and maintain consistency with adjoining communities. So that is part of our review process, and that would be a step after the Planning Commission holds their public hearing. But I just wanted to share that with you, that there is a process when we are on our periphery boundaries to our neighboring communities. So this RM proposal, so we're speaking specifically of the request before us now. They are proposing a secondary driveway, so that's the shaded driveway that you're seeing in the center of that portion of the property. It'll duplicate the entrance that presently exists on farther to the west along South Boulevard. The parking study that was reviewed, that was submitted earlier in 2018 was further reviewed in the analysis as part of the site plan application, and Fishback, our traffic engineer, confirmed that there will be less trips, less impact of surrounding roadways, and the overall improvements to the roads will require the Road Commission of Oakland County and any permitting thereof. So, clearly a marked improvement as far as trips generation, with this request, primarily just the 5 additional residents. The one-story residential building will contain 5 attached to multifamily residential units. The ordinance in the RM district does speak to a maximum building length of 25 feet. unless the planning commission finds that the proposed length is consistent and compatible with the development. This is actually being proposed at 155 feet, which is a length of some of the buildings already constructed as part of the Noble. So we'll be asking the planning commission to find this building to be consistent, but clearly requesting that you accept that modification. Also in the RM district, when we're talking about density and talking about number of units, we are very specifically directed to look at the land area divided by a formula, which is 1,700 square feet, to determine what the total number of rooms are, not bedrooms or not units, but rooms. And so based on the 2.317 acres, a total of 59 rooms are permitted. These units are considered considered 2-bedroom units with an optional 3rd bedroom or den. For our calculation, that's actually a 5-room unit, resulting in a total of 25 rooms by definition. Thereby, they are well under the density calculations for that portion of the development, so they comply. In the RM district, there are setbacks that are required. If you want to go to... Sure. There we go, this is a good one. The proposal, actually the RM district requires a 40-foot setback from abutting properties, and a minimum distance between building can be no less than 50 feet. The proposal does comply with those standards, except we do have a concrete drive that's being proposed on the north side of the clubhouse. And if you're looking at the screen, on the right-hand side of the drive where you see the 12 parking spaces, that's all to support the clubhouse. So the clubhouse is on the right side of those 12 parking spaces. To the north of the clubhouse is the drive that I was speaking to that does encroach into that 40 feet. It is a concrete drive to go to a garage door, which provides for the storage of maintenance, because now there is obviously a maintenance responsibility for the remaining acreage at the corner as part of the residence park and clubhouse and amenities. There's also a separate drive for a dumpster enclosure to the south of the clubhouse area, which will have a masonry dumpster, an enclosure with some screening. There's a separate concrete sidewalk that leads to a dog park that's immediately south of the clubhouse. To the rear of the clubhouse is a pool terrace patio area that, in addition to the pool, there's a pergola, totally enclosed and fenced, and supports the activities that are typically found within a clubhouse or the residence activities. Because this property is at the corner, South Boulevard and Squirrel, unfortunately, everything that we're speaking of, essentially, all has to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, because they're accessory uses, and accessory uses are only permitted in the rear yard. So here, we're, as it is servicing the residents and serving and being, those amenities, but they all have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals because we have accessory structures now in the front yard. So we have identified within the staff report, those things, such as the dog park and the clubhouse, the pergola, the AC unit that has screening, but not screening at the point of placement, and yet it's at a clubhouse and not at a residence. So we've delineated those very specific and specific to this unique proposal having to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. In looking at the entrance at the secondary entrance that's duplicating the first entrance we have into the to the Noble, those mirrored fence line and masonry piers. You want to go to the next?
Yep.
There we go. Are all features that make the approach to the residential development very inviting, very attractive, but those are all elements that are found within the front yard. So the wall, which has the Noble signage, The piers, they're duplicating the previous piers. There's 10-foot and also 5-foot piers. And then the gate, the black metal decorative gate that's spanning all other than enhanced by the landscape plan are features that do have to go before the zoning board of appeals because they are in the South Boulevard entrance. The design of the clubhouse is pulling from the materials consistent with, those that are currently found within the development. I think this is a nice perspective, so you're seeing, the compatibility of the units that are currently there and the additional building that's being proposed, and at the same time, looking to make sure that there is some screening and privacy with the vegetation that's being proposed along Squirrel and South Boulevard. The clubhouse itself as a accessory structure does exceed the 14 feet in height, which is our standard measurement to the peak for an accessory structure. This is actually 23 and a half feet, and certainly is to scale and to the development, but again, we're considering this as an accessory structure in use, and that would be another variance unique to this proposal. The floor plan of the clubhouse shows a variety of amenities, very typical of what would be found, such as a gathering room, a fitness room, a leasing office, pet wash, cafe, kitchen area, a pool storage, as I mentioned before, with the maintenance storage, and then that leads out to that rear patio, that has, further areas for the residents to enjoy. The dog park is enclosed with and gated with a 4-foot black metal decorative fencing consistent with what's being found also on the premises. Here's another elevation of that. The materials, again, are consistent, and then there is a photometric plan that shows that the lighting is one of which is going to be consistent with the lighting for the residents as well as the lighting at the clubhouse, where there be all downward lighting and no spillover, and the height of the poles. And this request is not to exceed 15 feet with the fixture itself. I know we showed you some elevations of the one-story residential building itself, similar materials, pulling from those materials that are existing at the residence. These units are approximately 1,900 square feet with attached 2-car garages, which is consistent with the current development. And there are rear patios at the rear of each of these units that also have a AC unit which will be screened with vegetative screening. Let's see, I think that, and so we have photos of the existing site for your view. This proposal did go before the Design Review Board on January 15th. The board, upon conclusion of the discussion and presentation, made a motion to approve the proposal as presented and forward the applicant on to the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals with a recommendation of approval for both of those bodies. And the various departments had an opportunity to review this request. The fire department noted a variety of elements specific to the fire code and the site plan that was presented. The applicant has addressed those in a subsequent submission, adhering to the requirements of the fire department, and that'll be reflected in forthcoming plans. The police department has no objections to the proposal and finds no traffic impact concerns. And the engineering and environmental services department has noted a variety of additional information that was necessary for their final review. The applicant has provided a more recent document and report that references the additional information that is necessary and that there is a commitment for compliance for the engineering review, for the Planning Commission to consider so as to be eligible for setting that public hearing on February 17th. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we're covering a lot of ground relating to a rezoning and a site plan, and looking to bring the entire development in under one ownership and proposal. There are variances, but I think the variances are unique to the request that's before you. And then lastly, there will be consideration, should the board go forward with that February 17th public hearing, to also at that same meeting consider the ordinance amendment, so that it could be considered at the same meeting and then forwarded on to the township board for their ultimate decision.
So just to be clear, what we're looking at tonight is just, right now, is just schedule a public hearing?
Yes,
Not on the site plan, but just a public hearing?
because of the rezoning, yes.
Okay, just that. Okay, very good. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Right ahead.
Back to when you were talking about the setbacks, and I'm glad we're back to this view, because that's
Yes.
the one you referred to. So did you say that the setback was 40 feet?
40 feet from, yes,
But the driveway is encroaching, but that doesn't require a variance if
that
it's
does
just a
not.
driveway?
That's correct.
Well, what's the setback, so that's the north side. What's the setback on the south side?
Well, technically, the south side now is going to be not what you're seeing, but actually, because the interior lot line is actually going away, because now the lot is one 12-acre parcel.
Oh, so the south side becomes part of the original?
Exactly, but the provision that I was speaking of was 50 feet between another residential unit, and they have almost 60 feet between the proposed building of the 5-unit and then the closest
Okay.
southerly building that's to the south.
So the single-family residences to the south are to the south of the existing buildings, not to the south of the new buildings?
Exactly.
And I had something else that I was going to ask, but the main thing was the setback to this. I just wanted to know, like, a little bit of the history. How long has that property been zoned, the RM property that's currently RM, how long has it been RM?
Since 2018.
2008?
18.
Oh,
18.
So it was rezoned recently and then developed. And was it single family at that time, or was it more B1 and O1?
It was B1,
It's a shopping center.
correct.
The shopping center.
It's a
It used to be the Burlington Bloomfield Shopping Center. with
Failed
the-
shopping center.
Kroger was the anchor for that shopping center.
Okay, I remember that. So that's the one that they were going to put a whole series of single-family, one-story ranches. And was that plan changed later? Because it doesn't, I don't recall the one that we approved unless it was changed later or something. I don't remember.
No, that, what you see before you, and then if you go to the, here we go. So what you see, the green roof, which is actually just, it's not a green roof, those are just all the addresses. That is the approved site plan in 2018 that resulted in those attached one-story apartment dwellings.
Okay.
That were,
And I remember there was a bank there,
yes,
and that's still some kind of financial institution
that's
in
a-
that one?
level 1 credit union. There used to be Bank of America at the corner, at the vacant commercial corner, but that was demolished.
Yeah, and then there, of course, there was, as part of the presentation stated, there was originally with this 2018 and the consent agreement, there was on the corner of South and Squirrel, commercial property, and it was going to be, it was somewhat contentious with the commercial property. So this is really a significant improvement because it's very low impact compared to what was there before. I've spoken to the owner about the project, and it really is bringing together a lot of things to enhance the property and at the same time having a much lower impact on the surrounding neighbors compared to what could be there if that commercial property was still there.
If I could just interject one point I should have made, is that at the previous 2018 plan, in fact, if you bring that up, Andrea, you'll see at, right south of those two commercial buildings at the corner, you'll see there's a drive aisle that was required to go out onto Squirrel Road for traffic circulation and access. That no longer is the proposal. That's been eliminated. That's a very significant feature for our residents on, south of on Squirrel, but also on the, east side of Squirrel. So, further less impactful to the residents.
I remember when that was done.
Thanks for
that was
that,
the main.
because it's all starting to come back to me
Is it?
now,
Okay,
so
good.
I
Okay.
appreciate the history.
You approved it.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Okay, anybody have, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the number one concern for me would be a consideration that this be spot zoning. You've got very few areas that you've identified, and the piece for the ancillary structure has got a lot of zoning considerations for your setbacks and all the other things that you mentioned. That would be the concern I would raise.
I would just interject that spot zoning often is something that is addressed if it is not consistent with adjacent land uses, adjacent zoning. In this instance, when you have RM zoning classification and you're expanding that RM, it's not considered then spot zoning because it's actually a continuation or expanding of a existing approved land use, consistent with the master plan and also consistent with the zoning classification. If we were to suggest that, we wanted to forward a recommendation to rezone that to, let's say,
Light manufacturing.
OR1 or Research Park or single family, then that's where spot zoning is very hard to defend because there's nothing immediately adjacent to it or a continuation of an existing approved use that the community can defend itself from.
I think that's well said, and I think that the concern always in that instance is about densities. But I think that this has unique features that are conditional only to its own space. And so that would be my caution. I happen to agree with having the public hearing for sure, and I like the development, of course.
But I will say, as someone who was very involved from the beginning and even prior to this development, what was going on there, and this is completely consistent with what was presented to us back in 2018, and continues to be consistent with the original site plan. And if anything, it's just enhancing what is already there. So like Patty said, it's not changing the character or the zoning at all, as far as it's changing the zoning so much, but it's certainly keeping it very consistent with what's already there and enhancing it, and I certainly will be supportive of this.
So basically, if you took the dash between the B and 2 and drew a line, that's roughly that side, the left side's going to become green, and the other side's going to stay B2.
Correct.
Which will, hopefully, if the amendment is approved, allow amenities to support that, but it could never be additional. We're not rezoning it to RM, but it's almost like having a commercial property with a parking zoning where the parking supports the commercial, but you could never build on it. So I get it. I would agree that it should go for the public hearing.
We did
Somebody made a
receive
motion.
a letter that was part of your packet from the president of the Bloomfield North Estates Homeowners Association, who specifically wanted to note that the unanimous concurrence of the Bloomfield North Estates Homeowners Association Board of Directors support the proposed additional development for the Noble apartment complex at the noted parcel.
Does it say provided they get to use the pool?
I got to tell you, and that's very significant considering the tenor of their opposition to this at the original site plan.
It does.
Well, as I started to say before, the biggest objection we got from the residents over that, on that side of Squirrel Road was the entrance, the northern entrance that's now being
Well,
eliminated.
they were also, the people to the east, they were concerned about the commercial on the, they weren't,
Right.
they weren't concerned about the residential. They were
No,
concerned
no, I
about-
get that.
yeah.
They were concerned about the entrance.
Yeah.
That was the biggest concern, because traffic was then going to be coming down Squirrel, going into that, So, but I just want to ask you, if most of that B2 remains, not most, partial, whatever it is, that stays B2, that means in the future, someday, someone could then put a store or something, a commercial piece in there.
They would have to
tear
come
down
back.
the clubhouse.
obviously.
Yeah, right, they'd have to tear
Yeah.
down, I get it.
They'd have to, it'll be a site plan application, and.
So
they would
why
have to
didn't
be-
the applicant want to then convert, to change the zoning for the whole B2, that whole B2 square? Why didn't they want to make that all RM then?
Well, two things. One was, because as far as the RM was concerned, they couldn't add any more additional buildings for the because there was a density maximum based on that calculation I was
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. And then also the master plan recommends the commercial multiple family residential and office use.
Okay.
So by preserving some of that B2, it's consistent with the master
Okay.
plan.
All right. All right, anybody else? Okay, anybody from the public would like to speak about basically just having the hearing,
Setting the public hearing
the
date.
public
We have a
hearing?
public hearing.
Yeah, that's what's on the agenda, really. All right, so let's have a motion then.
Make a motion that we set this for public hearing for February 17th, 25.
Okay, moved and
Second.
support, moved and second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's that. Next on the agenda, election of officers. It's January, so we have to elect a new slate of officers or whatever. So I'll just leave it.
I just kind of, we haven't had that many meetings, and we've had the officers in place. I say status quo it's working. So I'd be happy to keep that.
I'll be happy to remain as chairman.
Happy to keep you.
Happy, happy, happy.
Yeah. And have Rich is,
And vice.
Well, I
Chairman or vice.
agreed to be the vice chairman as long as you never got sick.
Well, so far, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, we
you know,
all
Okay,
do that.
in a hurry.
we got
Okay.
skate floor. We got Richie. I don't. Is that
So-
All right, so we need a motion then
Yes,
to
please.
approve the slate, approve that,
I make
move
a,
to-
go ahead.
I move to approve the slate as just presented.
and support?
Support.
Support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Items not on the agenda, an opportunity to bring something up maybe for future discussion, anything at all?
I do, if no one else does. Well, I am going to finally retire. I'm going to retire in May.
Really?
And so this is exciting news. You'll see me smiling for the next 3 or 4 months. This is great. But I also am very, very excited to be able to tell you that the supervisor has appointed Andrea as the upcoming director
Congratulations.
for the department.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to both.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, it's great that you're going to be joining us in the retired community, where we say every night is Friday night, every day is Saturday. Of course, in your case, it'd be every day is Thursday night.
True.
And every
Good point.
right?
Good point.
I can't
But
believe-
nevertheless,
Yeah.
happy for you, but that is sad for us
Yeah.
that you're leaving. But then again, you'll be taking over, so that's a positive. So
have,
it's a mixed
left-
blessing all over. But
Thank you.
Congratulations on your decision to join us retired.
Nice career.
I'm
Well done.
jealous.
It has been. It's
Too
been-
young to retire.
Yeah, almost 23 years at the township, and then before that, almost 18 years in the city of Birmingham. So
Oh, wow.
I think
So
after
that's,
40 years, I think
Oh, you started when you were 8?
I did.
Yeah, I was going to say,
7.5.
retiring at 39, right?
You're one of
7.5.
my favorite planning commissioners. You don't do well with math, that's right. Yeah, so, yeah, thank you. And we'll have, obviously, lots to talk about the next 4 months or so. So it's not like I'm leaving right away, but.
We'll make sure there's a party.
It's great
You're all
timing.
invited.
It's great timing for.
February, March, April, is that what it,
Yes, because
April.
First part of May, I'll be leaving.
very good.
Yeah, so that's my
Wow.
news.
Bloomfield Township's planning division is going to be hiring, so put the word out.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else have anything?
Bloomfield Township Planning Commission is going to be in good hands.
100%.
And
yeah.
trust me, she knows I know where to find her.
Yeah, too much.
If I need some history or need to,
Absolutely.
she's allowed me to have access to her phone.
Excellent for both.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Congratulations.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, then the next planning commission meeting will be Monday, February 3rd. Scheduled for that anyway.
Schedule.
Okay. Anything else? Then I guess.
Well, we know we have something on the agenda for the 17th, right?
We sure
Right.
do.
Well, the
yeah.
17th,
We
but see
have-
about the 3rd.
We just created it.
Okay. Then I guess
Motion to
motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.